Today I'm going to teach you step by step how to make a super cute Halloween wreath using Dollar Tree items. Hey guys, it's Nikki here at Stillwater's Wreath Designs. If you like all things wreath making, be sure to hit that subscribe button and join us. We've got new tutorials uploading every single week. Also, you can find a full materials list for you below in the description of this video. Okay, let's dive in. The first thing we need to do is make our wreath base. You're going to need 18 standard length pipe cleaners and a 14-inch wire wreath frame from the Dollar Tree. Sometimes their wire wreath frames have 4 rings, sometimes 3. This one has 4. It's flat on the back, rounded on the front, and it's got crossbars all the way around the wreath to stabilize the wreath, and the space between one crossbar and the next is called a section. We're going to add 3 pipe cleaners to every section on this wreath frame. That first pipe cleaner is going to go around those inner 2 rings right in the middle of that section. We're just going to give that pipe cleaner a couple of tight twists and then point it towards the center of the wreath. Okay, let's add those next 2 pipe cleaners. These 2 will be wrapped around the outer 2 rings on our wreath base, and we're basically going to center those as well so that they're equally spaced between the 2 crossbars. Give them a couple of tight twists and point those pipe cleaners outwards. We're going to follow the same process, adding 3 pipe cleaners to every single section on our wreath frame. Once you've got all of your pipe cleaners added into the wreath base, we're going to add a little dollop of hot glue to every single spot where a pipe cleaner meets that metal frame. You just need about 1/4 of an inch so it runs over the pipe cleaner and onto that metal bracket. That's all there is to it. Happy wreath making. Now that we've made our wreath base, let's go ahead and get our Deco mesh added into the base. And today I'm going to teach you the 1 roll Deco mesh method. This is a great method for beginners. It also helps to reduce your supplies cost. And we're going to use this entire roll. We'll be doing the poof and curl method. And the first thing we need to do is create our poofs. Go ahead and grab a standard 12-inch ruler. So our work wreath form has 6 ties on the inner portion of our wreath base and 12 on the outer. We're going to start on our outer ties. Before the 1 roll method, the first thing we need to do is add our poofs. So I'm just rolling out a bit of the mesh. I'll scrunch and gather that into my fingers. Then I'm going to take this tail and tuck it under, and you're going to tuck that tail under to hide away the raw edge of your Deco mesh, because if you're new to mesh, it loves to fray. So anything we can do to hide those raw edges reduces that fray. We'll come to any set of our outer ringed ties, and we're going to anchor our mesh in. So I've just opened those ties into a V. I'm placing that mesh all the way down to the base of our ties, and then I'm going to give those ties a couple of tight twists. And so now we can start adding our poofs. You're just going to take your ruler, place that at your most recent set of ties used, come out to that 10-inch mark, and not looking for perfection, no one's going to be measuring. Scrunch and gather that mesh. To create that poof, come to your very next set of lower level ties, open them into a wide V, and place that pinch of mesh all the way down to the base. We'll give it a couple of tight twists. And we've just anchored down our first poof. Let's go ahead and do one more together, and then we'll speed ahead. So we're going to lay our ruler on the most recent set of ties used. Identify that 10-inch mark on our mesh. Scrunch and gather that mesh into a pinch. Come to the very next set of lower level ties, open them into a wide V, and anchor your mesh all the way down into the center of those ties, and give those ties a couple of tight twists. Let's repeat that process all the way around the outer portion of our wreath base, and then I'll meet you back here. I wanted to pause and add our last lower level poof together. So we're actually going to anchor this last lower level poof right on top of where we anchored our mesh originally. So I've just identified that 10-inch mark, scrunched and gathered that mesh into my fingers. We'll come right back to those sets of ties, open them into a wide V, and just place that mesh right on top and give those ties a couple of tight twists. Okay, let's go ahead and jump our mesh to the upper level of our wreath base. So we're going to grab our mesh, pull it tautly in our hand, no poofs at this point. We're going to come behind the closest set of ties on that upper level. We'll place that mesh all the way down to the base of those ties. and give them a couple of tight twists. So you can see we've jumped our mesh, a nice clean jump from the lower to the upper level, and now we can continue on with our poof method. We'll be following the same practice that we did on the outer level. However, the upper level poofs will be 8-inch poofs instead of 10. So go ahead and add your 8-inch poofs all the way around that upper level, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, I'm getting ready to add on that last upper level poof. I've measured out to the 8 inches. I've opened that set of ties where we jumped our mesh earlier, placed my mesh all the way down to the base of our ties there. And I've just added that last upper level poof. And so now I need to cut away the remainder of our Deco mesh roll. Let me zoom in here. So I've just got my hand as a guide between our poofs and the mesh we're cutting away. I'm just going to come up about an inch or so from where we anchored that last poof and cut. So there's the first part of our base. We've added all of our poofs in, and now we need to move on to step 2 of the one roll Deco mesh method. So we'll set this base off to the side. I'm going to measure my mesh with my self-healing mat here in the background, and we're going to cut the entire remainder of the roll into 8-inch strips. Normally I would use my rotary cutter, but it is broken, so we'll be using scissors today. If you don't have a self-healing mat, just grab your ruler and measure. Don't worry about that jagged edge. So take a couple of minutes and cut the entire remainder of your roll into 8-inch strips. Once you've got the remainder of your roll of Deco mesh cut down into 8-inch strips, go ahead and grab your wreath base, and we're going to add 1 curl to every set of ties on the wreath base. To make a curl, you're just going to grab a piece of Deco mesh, lay that in your workstation, curl side up, roll it into a cylindrical tube, so it's about an inch or so in diameter there at the center. So basically, guys, a curl is just a cylindrical tube. You're going to come into any set of ties on your wreath base, add that curl all the way down to the base of those ties, and give them a couple of tight twists. Let's get all of our curls added into our wreath, and then I'll meet you back here. Okay, we've got our one roll Deco mesh wreath base built out, and look how stinking cute that base is. Okay, let's move on to the next step. So now we need to add some ribbon tails to every single set of ties. And I'm going to use 2 different types of 1.5-inch wired ribbon, always wired ribbon, guys. And remember, we've got 18 sets of ties on our wreath base, so we need 18 sets of tails of each, measured at 12 inches in length. So let me show you an easy way to make your ribbon tails. Just grab your ribbon, identify that 12-inch mark that with your finger, and then fold that ribbon accordion style for the total number of pieces that you need. 18 is a lot for one handful, so I'm going to do 2 sets of 9. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Once you've got that total number of pieces, grab your scissors and cut away the rest of the roll of your ribbon. Now you've got this nice little stack of ribbon. Keeping it together, I'm going to grab my scissors. I'm going to angle trim my ends, so I've carefully separated that into 2 stacks so they're more manageable for my scissors, and I'm diagonally cutting to give me those diagonal ends. Spin that stack around, keep it together, and follow that same process. So what we're doing here, guys, is separating those ribbon tails. We've measured them all together at the same time. We've separated those by cutting them and trimmed our ends the way we wish by angle cutting. You could also dovetail if you wish. And just like that, we've got 9 identical ribbon tails. So follow the same process. You're going to want 18 tails of each ribbon type, cut at 12 inches in length. I'll meet you back here. Okay, I've got all of my ribbon tails cut, and I did make a change to what I originally told you. So I've got 18 of the burlap and polka dot. I have 9 of the orange, and then I found this super cute ribbon which matches our sign so well. So I decided to pull it in as well. So I've got 9 of the green, 9 of the orange, and 18 of the polka dot. So we're going to add 2 ribbon tails to every single set of ties, alternating back and forth between the 2 combinations. Every set of ribbon tails will get the polka dot, and then we'll alternate back and forth between the green and the orange. So you're just going to layer 1 strip of ribbon on top of the other, fold it in half to identify that center point, open it back up, give it a pinch, and just kind of pull those tails into a loose V. Come to any set of ties on your wreath base. I like to start on the lower level and then jump to the upper. Place those ribbon tails all the way down to the base of your ties. Go ahead and grab your snips once you get your tails anchored in and trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaners, and then tuck that little tail under. Then we're going to fluff out those tails. So I just separate them out a little bit into a loose V, just like that. And then we're going to move on to the next. So this time we'll do the polka dot and the pumpkin. I'm going to layer 1 ribbon on top of the other, fold that ribbon stack in half to find the center point, open them back up, give a pinch there in the center, fold those ribbon tails into a loose V. We'll come to that very next set of ties on the lower level and add our ribbon tails down to the base of those ties. We'll give them a couple of tight twists. Trim off those excess bits of pipe cleaner. We'll just tuck those pipe cleaner tails back and under, and we'll fluff out our ribbon tails. So go ahead and add 2 ribbon tails to every single set of ties on your wreath frame, alternating between the 2 color combinations on both the lower and the upper. Be sure to trim off those pipe cleaner bits once you're finished, and then I'll meet you back here. Now that we've got all of our ribbon tails added in, look how stinking cute this is coming together, you guys. Okay, the next stop is to add our sign. This is also from the Dollar Tree. Let me give you a little pro tip about your Dollar Tree signs. You guys, they're just made out of press board, and so it's almost like a really heavy-duty cardboard. And so anytime I'm using a Dollar Tree sign, I already did this ahead of time off of camera, I always give the front, back, and sides a thin coat of Mod Podge to really seal the sign and keep it protected from the weather. So make sure you do that ahead of time. And they're also super lightweight, so we don't need to use any anchors to get this down into our wreath. We're just going to add a boatload of hot glue right around the edge of our sign, because that center is not really going to touch anything, and give several generous dollops of glue. Now be careful that you don't burn yourself here. And we're going to place that guy right in the center and give it a nice firm press. Once I've got that where I want it, I like to add something heavy to the sign just to make sure it's got some weight while that glue adheres. While that's drying, let's go ahead and make a quick bow. So I've grabbed a roll of 5-inch burlap, and I'm going to cut a 24-inch piece. You can grab this at Walmart. We'll just fold that into thirds so that our burlap is overlapping by a good 3 inches or so. And then we'll put that seam down in front of us. And then I've got some Dollar Tree ribbon, trying to stick with the Dollar Tree theme here. And we're going to make, with just this ribbon, a simple hand bow. Now these rolls, guys, I know you think they're cost effective. They're really not. They're only about 9 feet long. So you'll have to be mindful of how much ribbon you're using. I'm going to leave about, an 11-inch or so tail, pinching and gathering, hard twist. And I'm going to make my loops. Those are about 4-inch loops, hard twist under my thumb. And I'm going to continue this process until I'm basically out of ribbon, making sure I leave enough ribbon for my second tail. So I ended up making 6 total loops with 2 tails. I know I wouldn't have enough for much more, so I'm going to use this last scrap piece, identify that center, just eyeballing it here, guys. And I'm just basically going to add that to the back of my hand to give myself a couple of extra tails. We're going to place this stack right on top of our burlap. We're going to pinch that burlap around the center. It's kind of a big handful. Just hang on, guys. Trust the process. And then I'm going to use a 6-inch zip tie to secure this bow stack. And make sure you cinch that tight, tight, tight. And we'll use our small snips to trim away that excess bit of zip tie. We'll flip that over. This is going to be so stinking cute, you guys. And basically, I'm not going to bother fluffing this out just yet. I'm just going to pull those tails down. Just like that. So they're going in the same direction. I'm going to grab a pipe cleaner, wrap that right around our bow, give it a couple of tight twists, and then we're going to anchor this down into our wreath. So I'm actually going to sit it in the corner over here, just like that. So I'm going to take those pipe cleaners, and you guys, you're going to have to give yourself some grace. This takes a little bit of time. And we're going to anchor that right down into the wreath frame. And we'll secure those pipe cleaners on the back. Now that we've got our bow anchored into our wreath, we can go ahead and fluff it out. What I'm going to do is just make sure that those loops are spaced out and they're opened up. Now, you guys, this is Dollar Tree ribbon, so it's not going to work as well as your higher quality ribbons, but it's still super cute. How cute is that? I'm going to go ahead and roll my ends under because Dollar Tree ribbon likes to fray. So what I'm going to do is just curl those ends under just in the tiniest of ways a couple of times so that that raw edge is nice and tucked away. And we'll do that for all of our tails here. Then I like to just run my fingers over the ribbons to give them a little bit of a curve. How stinking cute. And now I'm going to add a couple of florals. This is a sunflower bush that also came from the Dollar Tree. I've pushed the greenery bits up and trimmed that stem away. We'll use some hot glue to anchor them down in to our wreath. That first one's going to go right in the center of our bow. Just give it a good 10-second hold to make sure that those florals get a time to grab. And then I've got some green cabbage florals that we're going to add in as well. Just adding a little dollop of hot glue right to the center of that stem. And I like to anchor them in where we had our pipe cleaner ties because that gives a good spot for our florals to grab. So I'm adding a sage green cabbage flower on either side of our bow. And I'm going to sprinkle a couple of more sunflowers just down here in this bottom left quadrant by my bow to really give it that nice accent piece. And this beauty is finished. What do you think?